I'm Bruce Kelly from Farm and Food Care, and over the last year we've been working on a Water Smart project with growers to help them assess their irrigation systems.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Short, Water Quantity Engineer with the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. Today we're going to be talking about some irrigation system assessments, which is one of the tools that we use to help ensure that growers are using water efficiently and making sure that each plant is getting the same amount of water, maximizing our production.
No matter what kind of equipment a grower uses, it's important that they optimize the distribution pattern and know exactly how much water they're putting on in a given time.
In Ontario, we have 4 main types of irrigation systems: traveling guns, sprinklers, drip irrigation, and center pivots. Here at the research station, we have a little mini example of sprinklers today, as well as drip irrigation on a grape trial. Regardless of what type of irrigation system is being used on the farm, it's important to measure the distribution uniformity. That is, how much water each plant is getting and making sure that the water application is even all across the field. To measure the distribution uniformity, we can measure both the water levels across the field as well as the pressure in the system. This helps us know not only how much water is going through the field, but also helps to identify where there may be issues and what's the source or the reason for those issues. Is it a question of not enough or too much pressure, or is it a question of perhaps plugging or placement? For an overhead irrigation system like sprinklers, traveling guns, or center pivots, we use fairly wide buckets to collect water in a grid pattern underneath the sprinkler system. We want to assess how much water is in each bucket, so we use a graduated cylinder to measure the water that falls in each bucket, and then look at if the pattern across the field is even, and also consider the overlap that may occur between sprinklers or between runs of the traveling gun. The volume of water collected in the buckets is then graphed, and we can look at where there may be problems in terms of sprinkler placing, so not having enough overlap, or perhaps pressure issues as well, leading to the water not reaching the far edges of the field. Drip irrigation systems like this one are the most easily managed types of systems, and they're delivering water directly to the plant roots. But there can still be issues in terms of distribution uniformity. What we're looking for is there enough pressure to reach the end of the lines, and are we facing any issues of plugging? Here we're looking at a drip irrigation system with a grapevine, and we can see the water nicely dripping directly onto this grapevine here. One of the issues with drip irrigation is the lack of pressure, and that can be an expensive fix with having to go with replacing pumps, but it often is related to filtration system, either an inadequate filtration system or filtration system that's not being flushed frequently enough. With overhead irrigation systems, such as a sprinkler system that we've got here, it is easier to see whether there are problems with the distribution uniformity. We can see visually whether there's plugging or a sprinkler malfunctioning. However, it still can be helpful to do an irrigation system assessment. The assessment will measure the actual uniformity of the water being applied. Some of the common problems that are seen is where sprinkler rows are not close enough together and there's actually a dead spot in between. Similarly, with a traveling gun, there can be not enough overlap between the lane pulls. What often happens is that the grower will compensate by putting more water on just to make sure that those low spots, those dead spots, are receiving enough. But that is not using water efficiently. By tightening in the spacing between the sprinkler rows or the gun lanes, we can ensure that the water is being applied evenly, and therefore we can put only as much water as required onto the field, and every plant is getting the same amount, leading to the best productivity, which is what we're after and what the irrigation system assessment can help ensure.
Sometimes in the driest parts of the summer, you're mostly concerned about using your irrigation system, but it's important when you've been using the same equipment over and over that every once in a while you take some time to evaluate its performance. To put out some sample buckets, measure the distribution uniformity, and make sure your equipment is performing the way that you want it to.
Thanks to the Water Smart program, Farm and Food Care and I have been able to collaborate on a number of irrigation system assessments. We think we've brought really valuable information to the growers who've participated, and we've also learned a lot about irrigation systems in Ontario, how they're designed, and what types of issues we can troubleshoot together.
On behalf of Farm and Food Care, EnviroStewards and OMAFRA, we would like to thank all of our farmer participants, without whose cooperation this project would not have been possible.